It's Miss Marcy from Winona Public Library, and today we've got an experiment with old pennies. We're going to talk about what makes old pennies look so old, and then how you can make them shiny and new again at home using chemistry. So old pennies look old because of a process called oxidation. The copper reacts with oxygen in the air, and then it gives it that brownish color. And the first thing we're going to do is scrub off that oxidized outer layer, and then you're going to see the shiny copper underneath. Then we're going to do another chemical reaction involving salts, and we're going to create a different substance that turns your pennies green like the Statue of Liberty. So for this experiment, you'll need some white vinegar, some salt, a couple of small jars, and then one of them needs to have a lid. You'll need a paper towel, some old pennies. They should be dated from 1982 or earlier because those pennies have more copper in them and that will look better. But if you have newer pennies, you can try that too. And then you'll need an old toothbrush. I've just got some water handy because I don't have a sink. Okay, so first we're gonna shine these old pennies and make them look new again. So we're gonna need about 1/4 a cup of white vinegar. So fill your jar about 1/4 of the way full. Doesn't have to be exact. And then you'll need about a teaspoon of salt. And again, that doesn't have to be exact either. So I'm just using a kitchen spoon. And then stir the salt into the vinegar. Great. Now that we've got our salt and vinegar solution, we're going to go ahead and put our old pennies into it. This is like a nice bath for them. So once you put your old pennies into the solution, wait a few minutes and you should start to see some changes right away. Already my old pennies are kind of more of a copper color and they're looking really, really light. So we know that the vinegar is dissolving the oxidized copper on the outside of the pennies. So because my pennies are really, really old, they need a teensy bit of help. So I'm actually going to fish them out of this solution and do a little bit of scrubbing on them with my toothbrush. And that will help get up the rest of that crud on the pennies. So I got my old toothbrush, dip it in the vinegar solution, and scrub. All right, check out these shiny pennies. So once you've got your pennies where you want them, make sure that you rinse them in some water. So I have my bowl handy, you can bring them to the sink. You just want to get off all of that vinegar and salt so that they stay the way they are. And that is so cool. Most of them came pretty clean. These three are really nice. This one's still kind of dirty, but it just kind of makes me wonder where this penny has been. Think of it, it's been going around in people's pockets since 1978. That's pretty cool. And here's a penny a little bit closer up so you can see it better. Okay, so now that we've shined some pennies, it's time for us to age some pennies. And this one is going to take a few days, but it's totally worth it. So what you're going to do is take your other jar and your paper towel and fold the paper towel so it's nice and small, and then sit it in the bottom of that little jar. Right about like that. This is going to be the bed where the pennies are going to sit. Then what you want to do is take a little bit of that salty vinegar solution and pour it onto the paper towel to get it wet. We want to get salt and vinegar into there. Nice and wet, maybe a little bit more. Awesome. Then take your pennies that you want to experiment with. I grabbed a few other old pennies, but they're not as dirty. And I want to see if I can make them really dirty. And then set them on top of that paper towel at the bottom of the jar, like this. So you can see my pennies resting on the paper towel. And then we're going to put a lid on this so that the paper towel stays nice and moist and the pennies stay in their bath. So what you're going to want to do is take your jar with the pennies and the paper towel and put it somewhere for a few days and check on it every day or so. what's going to happen is that a blue-green substance is going to form on the outside of the pennies. That's called malachite, and it's a different chemical reaction because the pennies are exposed to both oxygen and chlorine from the salt. So you're going to see that blue-green color happen to the pennies. And you might know the Statue of Liberty has a green color, but the Statue of Liberty is actually made of copper that's been oxidized, so it has the blue-green. Okay, so it's been 3 days, and I wanted to show you what happened to the pennies in the jar. So take a look. See that blue-green substance on them? That is malachite. That's the reaction of copper with oxygen and chlorine. So it worked pretty well. I did end up adding a little bit of extra salt just sprinkled on top to try and make them grow really big. And they did. So yeah, that's the experiment. If you like, once you've created the malachite pennies, you can scrub that off again with vinegar and kind of continue learning about what they would look like after that. But that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!